welcome to the David Ross Show. Today I've got an old friend, and what I said the other day is probably America's most famous communist, anarchist, world champion fighter, Jeff Monson. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Glad to be here, Dave. Nice to see you, too.
Crazy times for you to be visiting. Tell everybody where you live.
I live in a city called Krasnogorsk, Russia, which is about 30 minutes outside of Moscow driving, and I've been there just for a couple years.
And you are from where I am now, Olympia, Washington.
Yeah, I grew up in Olympia.
What made you? Are you a Russian citizen? Are you still an American citizen? And what made you go there?
Well, I'm a dual citizen. I got Russian citizenship, but I was going back and forth since I fought, like in maybe 2012. I fought Fedor Emelianenko, like one of the legends, and I lost the fight, but ended up meeting Vladimir Putin, met some like high-ranking officials, met a lot of people there, and from there, it just kind of I had some more fights that I was more successful in, and then it just kind of like morphed into really liking Russia, them liking me, and it just like kind of mushroomed into like a lot more than I ever expected.
So for people who don't know a lot about your background, you were a Division I All-American or national champion, I think, or close.
Yeah, I did all right in wrestling. Yeah, I won the Pac-10 and did all right in wrestling, but and then I got into mental health. And worked in mental health actually in Olympia and in Centralia. But I never, got kind of where I wanted, where dream-wise, like the sports, your ultimate goal. And then I was able to achieve that, a few years later in the World Championships of Jiu-Jitsu. And then everything kind of blossomed from there.
So you, some people may not know that there's kind of a global World Championship, obviously, but is it still held every year in Abu Dhabi? It's
every 2 years, and it's no longer in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. It's in different places. So it's been in China.
Moves around.
Yeah, it's I think it was Abu Dhabi for the first 4 times maybe, but now it's like all over the world every 2 years. Yeah.
And you won that multiple times, yeah?
Yeah, I won a couple times.
So then you moved into what most people are more familiar with, and that's MMA, UFC style fighting.
Yeah.
I remember back when we used to work together in psychiatric social work, and you were just getting started in MMA, and it was in lounges in bars and hotel ballrooms and that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden you launched into things like at the Tacoma Dome and casinos, and then launched into worldwide. How long ago did you change from working in mental health to actually fighting as a career for money and how you support yourself and that kind of stuff?
Well, when I first won the Worlds, I was 99, long time ago. Then for the next few years, I was doing the World Championships, and then also doing MMA. But I think it was like maybe 2003 or 4 when I completely stopped doing MMA, mental health, and went into fighting. But it was a hard transition because I thought, okay, man, I just fought in the UFC twice. Yeah, I'm doing all right and working mental health. I'm gonna go full time, like fighting, and I'm not gonna even have this job. So that way I'll be able to train full time and everything like that. And then a fight fell through. Then I got injured. Then another fight fell through, and it went like 9 months with no income, not be able to pay rents, not be able to like feed my wife and my 2 kids, and it was like. It was desperate times, and luckily I got a opportunity to go to Florida and join American Top Team, and they took care of me. They saved me really, and so from there I've always been a member of American Top Team and been able to have the opportunities to like just fight full time.
So American Top Team is a fighting camp.
Yeah,
basically,
it's a fighting school. We have, for just people wanting to come in and train. It's actually off the subject, it's just like a fantastic setup because you have this massive gym like massive. And you come in and you have probably 50 professional fighters, like 20 of which are in the UFC currently. World champions, UFC champions, like Abu Dhabi champions, all this like in one place. And then you have the regular you have kids classes, you have like adult classes, you have like people just coming off the street and joining up just to get, to training to, so don't sit on a treadmill and exercise bike to try to lose weight or get in shape. They're actually learning something and having fun and meeting people. And man, these professionals, these world champions just mingle. These guys you see on TV just mingle and just are in the same training facility, like sometimes do the classes or teach the classes with these people. So, imagine going to, like going to the gym and you're working out, Russell Wilson's like spotting you for bench press or something like that, or showing you how to do this like every day, like it's like that kind of atmosphere. So it's pretty cool. And there's like no egos. There's no, I'm this, you're that. It's just, everybody's a family. It's a fantastic.
So you had kind of a setup, it sounds like. Great weather, great location, kind of a sponsorship and a great training facility. What would pull you out of that and out of America to go live in Russia?
I fought in Russia, and then I did that fight with Fedor, and the people just kind of took me in after that. They know what, I ended up actually the day before the fight, before the weigh-ins, I did a seminar for a bunch of communist anarchists. Then I did another seminar actually a few days before that for just regular people.
What kind of seminar are we talking about?
Like a jiu-jitsu, like self-defense seminar. Just like, so I did it for free. Like, hey, just, because they contacted me, they like, oh my God, Jeff Monson's coming to Russia. And they like, they contacted me. I don't know how.
Are you a big name in the communist anarchist community in America?
I don't know, man. Like from around here for sure. I don't know. Like quite honestly, I've had some like Antifa guys that I was like associated with from Greece and England that are really angry with me right now because they saw my affiliation with getting involved in politics in Russia, with being a city commissioner, with like actually being part of government, as a betrayal. And so now they see me as kind of like the enemy. But I guess most people understand that the stuff I do is I attempt to do, at least, is for the social good of as many people as I can do. And
so let me see, can we break this down a little bit, because when I say Antifa, it's got a couple different meanings, and probably it does all over the world, and maybe with you. Locally here, what I've seen, the people we describe as Antifa are people that just want to dress all in black, or they sometimes are called Antifa Black Bloc, and they want to smash shit, burn shit, vandalize, and spray paint stuff. I would also call anarchists that are called those people anarchists. If you say you're an anarchist, that means something different to you, doesn't it?
Well, I'm not saying like destroying stuff or like appropriately putting force against someone trying to oppress you is wrong. I'm not saying that, but anarchism it's really about love. It's about like caring for your fellow people. It's like, that's anarchism. I mean, that's a definition, is like, we're going to share, we're not going to have, why are we not having government? Why are we not having institutions that have hierarchy over us? Because we're all the same. We're all equal. We all want to help each other. We want to get away with all forms of oppression. So if we're going to get away with all forms of oppression, then we can't have these constructs in the way. But going on a tip over, I see a car that belongs to Mike Smith or Joe Schmo, and I tip it over, I smash its windows, or I see a shop, a little mom and pop shop, and I smash the windows and I spray paint it. I'm oppressing that person, right? I'm showing like no regard for not only the safety of that person, but what they have to go through. They got to fix it. They have to, maybe they're going to lose a couple of days of salary, or they're not going to be able to work, or, they can't afford to do, especially in this, pandemic we're under. So you're oppressing that person. So,
So it sounds like you're not a big fan of some of the stuff we often associate.
Well, the
Antifa
problem is
or
the
anarchy
media.
with.
The media like groups everyone together. They like, if there's destruction, they're anarch. And I really hate when people call destruction or chaos or just like anarchy. Oh, they're anarchy. It's anarchy. It's anarchy. Like, that's not anarchy, man. Anarchy is doing away with oppression. And if you're actively oppressing some way, if you're a cop oppressing someone, if you're like dressed in black going out at night and oppressing people walking on the street that have nothing to do with what you're trying to do, if you're hurting people, hurting property that has nothing to do with what you're trying to say, then you're oppressing people. So you are not an anarchist. Like, just by definition, you're not an anarchist. So an anarchist has an idea, has a goal, has some feelings of care for his fellow man, and that's what anarchism to me.
So you're you said just a few minutes ago that you're, I guess, in some hot water with some anarchists or Antifa about the fact that you're kind of getting involved in the day-to-day minutia of, running a city or running a county or whatever it is in Russia. How do you reconcile those two things? What are you doing over in Russia as a Russian citizen to help improve people, and why is that okay, and why are people pissed off about that?
Well, I'm trying. So I was got this opportunity to be a city commissioner in this fairly growing but small city outside of Moscow, and I just do what I'm like I said, when they were offering this position to try for election, I said, look, I'm just going to do the things that I'm good at. What am I good at? I'm good at working with kids. So I'm setting up, set up a free children's school for kids, for martial arts is free. Then we did it for adults too, for free. So we're doing sports, we're doing community events. We started a huge recycling program that's been like a booming success. There's a lot of people in Russia. It's a little different in Russia when you buy apartments or buy a complex. So a builder, like say, going to build a 10,000 apartment complex, he'll go get the money from all the people. Like, he'll get 10,000 people to pay the price, go get loans, and so he's got all this money to build, and he'll start building. But what happens in Russia, they've since changed the law. They can't do this any longer. But those people who paid for these apartments before, the builders sometimes would just leave, or like see that the math wasn't going to work out. He wasn't going to make the profit that he's done, and he just leaves, like moves away to a different city, starts another company, and these people are left still having to pay mortgage until they pay off this apartment that is never going to be built, and they're playing in the place they live in now. So anyway, I'm working. That's a huge thing that I'm working with right now, trying to help these people get another apartment, try to get compensated, trying to work with, we got the banks in Russia, like the Bank of Russia, to give these guys a forbearance for a year, not have pay any interest, any payments, to try to get themselves together. So that was like a little victory. But we're working with, like, I'm doing this stuff, working with homeless people.
So why are you doing all this stuff in Russia instead of in America?
Well, I tried to do this in America. I spent 3 months in jail.
Tell us about that.
Well, I spray painted the Capitol building. It wasn't.
This was going on what, like 15 years ago?
No, 12 years. So this is the onset of, in the middle of the Iraq-Afghanistan wars, and so they were sending. I'm sure you remember this. They're sending like troops and equipment from McCord, from Fort Lewis, using the port of Olympia as a transport to Iraq or to the Middle East. And just remember right in the middle of the day, all of a sudden, all the trees, 4th, 5th Avenue, State Avenue, like closed down because here come these semis with these tanks with these, and it got blockaded a few times. We're trying to like stop it. We would all get arrested and pepper sprayed and this. And it was like, our kids are watching this. This war is illegal. The UN didn't sanction this war. They never found weapons of mass destruction. And we're going off killing 1.5 million people in the Middle East, sending our troops. We're losing thousands of our own people, our own citizens, and people who worked. I had a gym in Olympia at that time, a jiu-jitsu gym, and some of my guys were in the military, and they were being sent over to Iraq and Afghanistan during this time, like my friends. And I was like, and so there was a big petition in Olympia, and like thousands of people signed it saying, no, we don't want to use our port. We don't want to use our port for the, to sanction this war. They just say, no, it's like, oh, yeah. We're going to do what we want. Where the Port of Olympia is getting, they're getting money from the military for this. So they ignored it. So I went and spray painted on the Capitol. And I did this. Why did I do this? Because when the legislators, this was like a Thursday evening, like at 5 o'clock, it wasn't, there were people walking in and out of the building still. This wasn't like in the middle of the night dressed in black. I mean, I wore sweats and a hoodie with the hood up, with hood down, like you could see my face. It's like I just sprayed, like I said, the Anarchist sign, the peace sign said stop the war, end poverty, because I wanted our legislators when they walked in Friday morning to see that some people in Olympia did not approve of what they were doing, and like to pay attention. Like if you're not gonna read our look at our signatures on a paper that says, hey, we don't want to do this, and we have thousands of signatures, then you're definitely going to see this when you walk into the building. And I also left, it's also not publicized. The media is I left a note. I typed out a note, said, this is why that we're upset, and it described the war, how it was illegal, why the people were angry, how they were facilitating. Talking about, when we talked about the Nuremberg trials and stuff, after this they put a precedent that they were trying people and prosecuting people like regular German citizens who were next to concentration camps because they allowed this to go on. They didn't maybe participate, they didn't support it, they didn't like it, but they let it go on. They didn't protest or whatever, and you could be deemed criminally like it's your fault for like allowing this to go on. And I said, this is international law.
So you made national headlines, I think, because the ESPN magazine at the time did they photograph you doing that?
They photographed it, and it was actually, it wasn't a setup. This was planned before they came. They did like they followed me around for like 2 days, but they were actually at my house when I was going, and I was meeting a friend. And I said, don't come to this because you could be right. I thought there's a 50-50 chance that someone's going to see me spray painting. The police, the guards, the security's going to see me. They're going to arrest, because it's like I said, it's 5 o'clock in the
sure.
early evening. And they said, no, we'll come. And so they photographed it. So nothing happened forever. And then about 3 months later, when the story ran, the very next day, the SWAT team at the house and this and that.
So what was the end game as far as your penalty for doing that?
A felony, like restitution of, I don't know, like $25,000, something like this, $23,000. 1 year probation. So it was quite significant for.
You spend any time in jail for it?
Oh, and 3 months in jail. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a lot for what you believe in. But the reason I want to bring that up is because right now we're in the middle in this area, in Olympia, in Portland, and Seattle. Those are kind of hotbeds, and nationwide, of this debate of listen to me and my grievances, or listen to me and my political demands or perspective even. And if you don't listen to me, is it okay to force you to listen to me? Blocking cars or things like that. And if you don't listen to me, is it okay to spray paint? And if you don't listen to me, is it okay to smash? And if you don't listen to me, is it okay to burn or loot or assault? Where on that continuum in anarchy, in revolution, and in your own personal political beliefs, does that where do you land on that continuum?
Well, for me, it's pretty easy. Like, it's a pretty easy line, and it's, I'm nonviolent. I don't like violence, but I'm not against.
So people are going to hear that, and they're going to say, "Wait, this guy fights for a living. He fights professionally. That's how it's what he's done for the last 20, 30 years." Have you ever been in a bar fight?
Never.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you fight anywhere outside of a ring.
Yeah, like I think I was 7 years old when the last time I was in a fight. But a fight, I'm just a worker, just like I'm working at Starbucks or I'm working at JCPenney's or something like that. I'm getting paid to do a service, which is fight or entertain, like a circus clown, and they're paying me a percentage of the gate or pay-per-view that they're selling. So I'm really just a wage slave. I understand that. I really love my job. I like doing what I'm doing, but at the end of the day, I'm getting paid much less, and so are the other fighters. We're getting paid much less than we're bringing in, so we're wage slaves. So I'm a wage slave.
But still, and granted, you said early on when you had some really lean times and your fight club really sponsored you, those days fighters were paid next to nothing.
Yeah.
And now there's debatable. There's people that say it's still tremendously low compared to similar things like boxing or NFL or NBA stuff. But if you had your way and this was a communist world, would you get 75 grand a year and that's it? And it's same as a state worker, or would you get more because you're doing something that's in higher demand or a more rare commodity?
I mean, you kind of. I would answer this question by this: is like when this virus hit and they said, "Oh, you're an essential worker." Well, what? Okay, these guys are like food processors. These guys are restaurant workers. These guys are like doing things that everybody needs, but nobody wants to pay very much for. You know what I mean? So when the shit hits the fan, can I say that?
Yeah.
when it gets bad, like we understand what the essential workers are. So yeah, like I don't, if I'm working hard and I'm doing fights and I'm getting paid the same as someone else who's maybe putting the ring together or cleaning up afterwards, I don't have an issue with that because I'm doing something I love. You know what I mean? And if I'm a doctor and I'm making the same as somebody who's working at a grocery store, the society has paid for my education. I'm not having to pay back student loans. I'm doing something I love. I'm making invention. If you're a doctor because you want to make a lot of money, then like what kind of doctor are you? Are you a good doctor? Probably not. So I think what we do, as long as you're willing to work, as long as you put the hours in, and try hard. Some people don't want to go to school for 8 years or whatever, and they're fine. Building roads or doing construction or something like that. That's a trade. That's a valuable thing that society needs, but they don't have to go to school forever, so they're out making money a little earlier. But
the age-old debate is that the people willing to go for 8 years to law school or med school are earning that or deserve that reward of a higher income and working in a profession that fewer and fewer and fewer. A lot of guys can work in a mill.
Yeah.
There's a huge supply of that labor. Not a whole lot of people can do neurosurgery. Should those guys be paid more?
I mean, in a communist society, in a egalitarian society, I mean, I don't believe so because they're doing something they love to do. I mean, they're walking out with no student loans. They're going to work. They're enjoying the work. I mean, having the idea of working in a mill or a steel mill for 30 years doesn't excite me. And like I'm doing the same job every day. Like it's very depressing. Think of that. And so, but some people will trade that, putting in the whatever hours in, coming home and not having to go to school and getting a salary. They'll trade that for not having to go to school, for not having to. But some people want that. They want to be a brain surgeon, or they want to do this, or they want to do things. I mean, look at the people who see look at the Olympic champions. I mean, unless you're some like gymnasts, some women's gymnasts winning the all around thing. I mean, there's no, or like a Michael Phelps, there's no real financial reward, for being an Olympic champion, especially like in wrestling. You're an Olympic champion wrestler. You come home, you get $0, and it's just a satisfaction that you were the best in the world. You didn't do it for financial reason, but the thing that's missing here is you're taking off. If people have equal pay, if there's no eviction, everybody's guaranteed. Like FDR, he said he tried to put this through. He said, I want a new deal, like a new deal, where everybody has a job, everybody has transportation, everybody has education that they want, everybody has a house, health care, like these basics. This is a guarantee right for being an American if you're willing to work. If you have this, there's not, and you have a vehicle and you have things that you need. What's the incentive for making more and more money? You get a good vacation. You're gonna have to work. If the jobs we had, you took out being a lawyer, because why do we need lawyers in a communist society? Why do you need like accountants?
Well, wait, you don't have those in Russia?
Yeah, but Russia's not communist.
It's not. What would you call it now?
Oh, it's a complete capitalist country, just like the United States. The culture is different. There's no such thing as communism in the world today. The closest thing you have for communism is maybe going to like Syria or Eastern Turkey and the Rojava, these Kurds who are having a egalitarian society where there's women and men are equal. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what job you have. There's actual equality, like it's being practiced right now. But this is the only place in the world right now where you have actual freedom and what I would call like a communist or an attempt at a communist society.
In the debates between capitalism and communism, one of the biggest criticisms, or socialism too, is that what you just said. People say, that's not really communism, or that's not truly socialism, that's fascism, or that's totalitarian repression and dictatorship and so on. And so don't judge communism or socialism by that, because that's not the true implementation of honest communism. We've never seen it. And the capitalist perspective or response to that is usually, that's right. Whenever somebody tries to implement communism or socialism, it takes the slaughter of hundreds of thousands or millions of people to force it on people. And even then, to keep people under its thumb, it takes repression. And so you never actually see this communist utopia ever materialize. What do you say to that argument?
I mean, that's a good argument, but the problem with it is that these people never had in mind, even the Bolsheviks in the Russian Revolution, they never intended. They even said from the beginning, we're gonna control things, and then eventually we'll let the state disappear. We'll gradually release, but they increased it. They increased the repression and the oppression of the people. That's the thing about communism. It doesn't need to be forced on people. For communism is a thing that would the people need to happen. It needs to happen in a natural way. Unfortunately, when you have what they call revolution, or the Arab Spring, or something where people are protesting and fighting regimes that are oppressive, there's nothing. They just know we don't like this. So it's really what's going on right now. These people that are pretending to be Antifa or smashing stuff. Go, we don't like what's going on. We don't like what's going on. Okay. What do you want then? What do you want? You're smashing stuff. You're breaking stuff. You're making change. You're trying to make change. What change do you actually want? And they have no idea. And so that's how I differentiate between people who are actually want a cause, or actually have a goodwill and care for their fellow man at heart, and those who are just destroying stuff. Because these people destroying stuff just don't like what they're just angry and I want to. But you ask them, okay, well, let's sit down and have a talk about what do you see society being? What would be a good alternative to this? And they have no idea. And so
I've gotten answers from some people. It was fuck you. It was an attempt to tear gas me. It was spray painting on my car. And that didn't go so well for them. But you bring me back to the point that I sort of got off on a tangent, and that is, where on that continuum then, if there are those people, or if there are people even, let's say with the Black Lives Matter movement, if there are people who they're not seeing the political change that they want, you can peaceably assemble, you can engage in nonviolent civil disobedience. I mean, we have a tremendous history of that, going back way back to abolitionists who would not participate in things, all the way up to women's suffrage and the civil rights movement and on, of nonviolent civil disobedience. But where on the continuum do you think it's okay to force change with things like violence, vandalism, arson, looting? Is there somewhere, because you said a few minutes ago that they wouldn't listen to us when we were protesting about the JBLM things coming through the Port of Olympia years ago. So just to get their attention, I spray painted and left a note. And depending on who's listening, they might say, that's pretty benign. You didn't want to hurt anybody. Other people would say, oh God, you did $25,000 worth of damage to the sandstone and historical property. And so how far are you willing to go, or how far do you think people should be allowed to go? Or should you be able to block traffic? That's an inconvenience.
It's an inconvenience, and you're affecting people that aren't involved in it. I mean, I think the best way, what I did, spray painting, leaving a note, honestly, was quite a lazy way. I don't think it was a wrong way. I think it was a lazy way of dealing with the thing. And I was, quite honestly, I was using, people know who I am. And so if I get in trouble, I expected to get in trouble. And if people see that I'm willing to go to jail, or I'm willing to get in trouble, get fined, get a felony, all this stuff for this, then they might not agree with me, but at least they'll go, why did he do that? He's in the UFC, he's making money, he's doing fine. He's not being oppressed. He's not being sent to Iraq. His family's not going to Afghanistan. Why does he care that all this is going on? And so I think it would make some people think, okay, at least contemplate why would he do that? And that's still going on today. Some people, when we talk about, they're like, well, why did you do that at that time? Why did you go to jail for 3 months in the middle of your fighting career and this? And so in that way, I think it was successful to make people think. But you brought up a good point. Every major turn in the United States that's been beneficial to the people, women's suffrage, union rights, civil rights, all this happens because of direct action, civil disobedience, and peaceful protests. None of it happened because people stormed the White House or stormed buildings and killed people, and they're like, okay, we got to do something. These people are killing us. No, it happened because enough people, there was inertia where enough people made it politically appropriate where you had to support it. It's like now with this after the George Floyd, now people are kneeling at the national anthem. Before it was you were kind of ostracized for doing it, but now if you don't do it, you're kind of ostracized.
Right, you created an empathy or a compassion, a level of awareness in the dominant culture that is way different than trying to pound the dominant culture with a sledgehammer.
And and why I say I was lazy, because what would have been better in hindsight? What would have been better? It would have been better trying to get, had a bunch of friends, a bunch of anarchists, a bunch of people from my gym, got them together, did marched, got the microphone, said da-da-da, and staging a lot of talks, going on talk shows, local, this, and really trying to build the momentum, put a lot of effort into the fact that we didn't like what was going on. This war was illegal, et cetera, why we didn't want this stuff going through the middle of our town, and tried to build this inertia, this movement where it became popular to, stop stop what was going on, and instead of just like, oh, these are these extremists that are doing it. That it's just like UFC. It's a fighting. It used to be an extreme sport. Now it's a mainstream sport, but it crossed that line. And by doing that, they had to do certain things. They didn't force it down our throat. They got the boxing commissions on board. They got the regulators. They did the drug testing. They did this. They made it legitimate. So now, yeah, it's an extreme sport. It's a violent sport, this and that. But it's mainstream. It's like boxing now. You can see it on ESPN. You can see it on
Well, I think still the biggest pay-per-view of all time. It may have been a recent boxing match, but before that, it was a UFC.
Yeah,
live.
and it's big because it's become they've made it mainstream. They've made it okay. They haven't made it extreme, and so the same. Now we're talking about social movements. You gotta make like the Black Lives Matter, they're trying to. The goal should be to make it mainstream, to make it acceptable, to make it like where people are aware, like this is why we're doing it. We're not just like some outlier that's pissed off and we're gonna block traffic and piss on stuff and tip over stuff and burn stuff. No, we're angry and we're upset, but we care about people, and this is why we care about people. And so this is what our agenda is, and this is what we want to do, and this is how we want to do it. And these are the people that we're working with to make it happen. And we're working with the city legislator, we're working with the police force, we're working with these people, not clashing, banging heads with them, like creating havoc. And the more people, and that's, I'll get off the subject, but that's exactly why I became in government in Russia, is because, I went there as an anarchist, a communist, work like doing stuff with, a lot of people, doing seminars and this and that, nothing protesting wise. But I understood early on that if I was going to make a change because of my popularity in Russia, I had to work within the system. And some people like the Antifa, like in Greece, and some other people that are in Europe that are pissed at me, and they say you're a sellout. You're like working with Putin. You agree with him. You're like that's not true. Like I'm working the best of my ability to make change. I could go on the streets and protest in Russia, and I'd get a lot of people because of my name. I'd get a lot of people supporting me. But at the end of the day, I'd go to jail, and if I didn't go to jail, I'd be ostracized to the point, or blackballed by the point of the political community, where I'd never, ever be able to make a change. I wouldn't be able to work with kids with free schooling. I wouldn't be able to work with homeless. I wouldn't be able to work with people trying to get their apartments. I wouldn't be able to do the recycling. I wouldn't be able to do nothing. And to make a point and to be in the paper and be popular, like as some civil disobedient, angry American coming over to Russia, and that's not what I want.
So it sounds like you're being pragmatic or being practical.
I'm being smart about it. Like really.
So that a lot. I'm curious. A lot of you said you'd met Vladimir Putin. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a judo player, so he's a fan of fights.
Yeah.
And also, it's pretty well known that our president is a sort of a fan of Putin, and some people even say he's trying to have a chokehold on America the way that Putin has a chokehold on Russia. Does Putin have what you would call the chokehold on Russia, or can you talk about stuff like that without?
Yeah, I can talk about it. The culture is different in Russia. The people want they want a strong leader. They want someone who is authoritarian. I mean, some people, of course, don't like maybe a rule that's been passed or something like that. But people want fairness. They want honesty, and they want someone who's strong and is seen like a father protector. And they talk about freedom and stuff. I feel like in Russia I have more freedom than U.S. Yeah, in Russia, if I go protest and stuff and get a bunch of people and stuff, there's a better chance in Russia I might end up in jail. Maybe not me, but there's a better chance it's going to cause more problems than in America. But I also am not worried about getting shot by the police. The police, they come to... I see them by my apartment every day. They're like, hey, and it's just with regular people. There's no fear of police there because they don't walk around with guns. First of all,
but isn't there a better chance that you could fall out of a window? Like, like the first 4 doctors complaining about coronavirus in Russia, or that you could end up, face down in Gorky Park, or I mean that's my that stuff has happened, and that's my image of when a totalitarian dictator has a stranglehold on a country, so much so that he's passed a law that says he gets to be dictator until 2035. And I don't want to get you in any
This is actually just came up. This was just a constitutional amendment that came up that was just voted on maybe a month and a half ago there. But here's the thing. It's the reason I don't see a huge problem with this is because the people are still voting. Nobody gave him the right to be. It gives him the right, or anybody the right, to be chosen by the people, consecutive terms, another term. It didn't give him the right to just be dictator or be an authoritarian leader or be the president of Russia as long as he wanted. It said that, yeah, there's going to be a vote every 5 years. And
do you think they have fair elections?
I believe that the elections are much more fair now, and the reason I say is because in some provinces there's big provinces or regions. They're called regions, and there's a regional governor who holds the power in that region. And then in 2 regions, the new regional governor was not from United Russia Party, and it was not who the Kremlin wanted in there.
So just for people listening, United Russia Party is what?
It's the biggest party. That's
Putin's party, yeah?
Yeah, imagine like the Democrats and Republicans being one party. It's like that. It's the biggest party. And then there's the Communist Party, the LDPR party, and then some smaller parties. The LDPR is like a right-wing party. And then, of course, the Communist Party that I worked with for like 3 or 4 years before I realized they weren't communists, so I quit working with them. But they call them the polite opposition because they don't oppose it. It's not like the Republicans and Democrats that are fighting over this and that, and you always vote with party lines and this. There, it's like pretty much United Russia, and the other parties just kind of go along with it, and they're just happy to have some seats and the people in these parties are just happy to be what they called in the State Duma, which is like a senator or congressman, and they're just happy to be there. But anyway, in 2 major regions, somebody from United Russia was not voted in as governor, and it didn't sit well with some of the who's who in Moscow, but that's just the way it was. They didn't have like rerun the elections or, cry,
recounts that flip things. So then contrast that. Do you think elections in America are fair?
I mean, I think, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I think, I think they do the best they can, with the votes. I don't think there's someone there like switching votes or something like that, or a machine that's making it. I think if you vote, I think for the most part the person who got the most votes wins. Yeah.
So you live in Russia now. How often do you come over and see the States? Or I guess what I'm getting at is how aware or how up to date on the news of the day of America are you about what's going on?
I follow it every day.
Yeah,
I follow it every day.
Just from the internet and so on.
Yeah, like I got a bunch of like different sites that I go to, like, and I shun the Olympia one too. I see what's happening in Thurston County and that, but
Puget Sound Anarchist.
No,
they're good friends of mine. I hear
some are political ones, some are not. There's a couple of good ones that are like just kind of videos of what's going on, and it's
what do people on the street in Russia I mean, one thing that I hear from people is, oh gosh, America's being ripped apart at the seams. If China's ever going to strike, it's now. If Russia's ever going to strike, it's now. If we keep coming unraveled like this, that's when your Pax Romana is over, when your golden era. That's when the wolves bite at your heels, and America coming apart is going to lose not only its role in the world, but also could end up being civil war or a war with other countries? Is your average Russian asking you about America and what's going on?
Yeah, so you brought up 2 points. I want to talk about, like, first, yes, the Russians ask me all the time. They're like, Jeff, do you see what's going on in the United States? What's happening? Like, what the hell's going on? Like, black people are fighting white people, and they're fighting the police, and they don't understand at all, like, why Americans are fighting with each other. They just don't understand it at all. And I try to explain, well, there's been some racial problems for like many years since the beginning of America and now, and it's like it hasn't gone away, and it's like hidden in different, like, red line in different ways, and try to explain it, but they just don't get why Americans are fighting. And the other point you brought up is like, oh, it's a good time to strike. Like, Russians see America as a friend. Like day-to-day Russians, the working Russians are interested in America. They want to visit America. They're very interested in Americans who come visit Russia. They want to show off the best of Russia. They want to go, look, we have a cool country too. Don't think we're less than you. They want, like, they're very, they're proud of their country, but they're, like, the self-esteem of their, like, they feel like everybody's looks down upon Russia, and they want to show you that, like, Russia's a great country. Look, we have the world championship paraplegic hockey team from our town. Like this is,
right,
like,
on.
a good, like, really, like, seriously, this was like a big deal. Like, we're good people, like, think well of us. They don't want war. They're not thinking of getting Americans. They want to be friends with America. They want to visit America. They want to maybe live in America.
It might sound fluff to some people, but there are social scientists and anthropologists who credit American pop culture, after World War II, from preventing more war in the 20th century. Elvis Presley, rock and roll. I mean, America was cool, and that cachet may have played a part in keeping America cool enough from other countries from being able to build popular will to go head to head or want to destroy America. I think that's
a good point. I can see that. Like, at least in Russia, they're fascinated with America, fascinated with Russians, and I would say they're disappointed in looking at what's happening in America right now, from what they understand from whatever social media or just the news in Russia. They're disappointed in watching Americans fight with each other and kind of all the chaos.
Donald Trump gets compared to Vladimir Putin quite a bit, and also seems to have a bromance with Putin. What do Russians think of Donald Trump?
Well, it's changed, because when he was first 3 years ago, when he was first elected, people liked him because. Why? Because he said good things about Russia, which is the same reason people liked me when I fought over there. Because I was just a fighter. I fought their hero, Fedor, but they're like, I said nice things about Russia. I said, I always wanted to be here. I admire that this is where the first social revolution in the world came from. I love, the people are so nice. But anyway, Trump said some nice things about the people in Russia. And about the country itself, and he didn't want war. He wanted to be friends in that. And so they liked him. But now, over seeing his policies, seeing his actions over the 3 years, he's seen as a clown, like literally like a clown. And he's seen as someone who can't be trusted, because he says one thing, does another, says this, does another. He lies, and it's like shown. Everything he says is a lie. This whole, like, this coronavirus and how it's blowing up in the U.S. and stuff is seen as his fault, and in a lot of ways it is, because he's took off the task force for like a pandemic response. He fired these people. He took away this medical thing to do with that. He dismantled the whole, like, in the last 2 years, but like all the things like to prevent this kind of outbreak. He just, it's not important. We're going to get rid of it, and like it bit us in the ass. And so anyway, they see him now more of a clown that's not can't be taken seriously.
Interesting. Is your role in Russia, do you have any, I guess I want to say, they get a world champion fighter from America to defect to Russia. To me, that like reminds me of like some movies from the 80s. Wasn't there a Baryshnikov or somebody? All these defecting gymnasts and ice skaters and ballet dancers. Are you an absolute rock star over there because A, you're from America, B, you're a champion, C, you're a fighter, and you're also kind of, hey, we got one of them to come over to our side. Red Rover, send Jeff Monson right over.
I think all those are true except the last statement. I don't think it's like, oh, we got one of them. I think it's the more like, yeah, he's a champion. But he's an American that loves Russia. That's like, if I had to like say why, I mean, there's better fighters out there. There were fighters in my day when I was at my peak that were better than me, but why, Jeff? Because I support them. I said nice things about them.
Do you think there's any aspect of somebody from the apex
political,
of capitalism who now endorses communism or socialism?
They like that because there's a lot, especially there's a lot of young people that are like kind of want to feel for that because Russia is poor, man. Like Russia's poor. Like I visited a factory. This is an example. I visited a factory that made crackers and beer and some, I think, cookies. And that's like the thing. They had like maybe 60 employees at this factory. These people, like their income every month, they work 40 hours or 45 hours a week, whatever it was, in this factory. They showed me through the factory, met all the people. They're like very happy to, like, excited to, like, oh yeah, we work here. Like very, they want to show off.
Enthusiastic.
Man, they made their income was like $300 a month, and they lived.
So, but when you say that, if you were in America
but
here,
that's average.
When I used to do psychiatric social work, like if a guy got $325, you get him on state GAU, if you remember.
Yeah.
Those that don't know, Jeff and I worked together in psychiatric social work for about 4 or 5 years before you went into crisis services. But if you had $300 or $325 at the time of income, you were going to be on the street because there's no way you're going to get an apartment and pay electricity and food and so on. So you're going to live on the street and have money for tobacco and incidentals. If you were in $300 a month in Russia, are you paying $300 in rent? Are you paying $100 in rent? Is your rent covered with the new capitalist revolution?
To put it in perspective, what they're living with, because I actually made the comment like, oh my gosh, you guys must just see McDonald's all the time. And they're like, no, McDonald's for the rich people. They said, like, they lived in houses of, like, not just the nuclear family, but the extended, like grandmas, grandpas, uncles, aunts, kids, in a very small place. And they went out and bought oats, like bags of oats, like bags, for horses. And then they like made bread and they milled it, they ground it down themselves. They did it to make bread, to make this stuff. They tried to grow their own vegetables and fruits, and like they had a local butchery where they got the stuff that was fairly cheap. So they survived, but it was like a group effort to survive. And it was, about survival. There wasn't there was no holidays going to the Black Sea or stuff like that. It was like, it's the standard of living in there is much lower. The apartment I live in is, a 2-bedroom apartment. I live with my daughter, her mom, her mom, the grandma, like, and together in the super, and she sleeps, on the couch in the living room. There's one bathroom in this, it's like, but that's.
And do you pay rent to a landowner? Do you pay rent to the government? Does the government give you free rent?
No, we pay like normal rent, like a normal person would do. So. Could
you buy something over there? Could you buy a condo?
Yeah, you could buy.
Is that for the ultra wealthy?
No, a lot of people buy, but that's like kind of the people the apartments. There's been kind of a, because as I said it earlier, like the people would buy an apartment and it kind of get stung, and so there's been, even though they did change the law, now the money goes into an escrow, and so the people would get it back so they did change the law, which was good, but it's a lot of the buying has kind of gone down because of that. People are so scared, even though the law's been changed. It just recently got changed. So people are, they got everybody knows someone, who has been stung by this problem. So, there's been kind of a downswing with the buying. Yeah, but people can buy, but you're here they say what 1/3 or 1/4 your income shouldn't go towards.
You're classified as rent burdened if that's the case.
Yeah. So there, I mean, it's definitely 50% or more of your income goes towards rent or mortgage there, and that's like normal.
And surprisingly, I believe that's the latest statistic in Olympia, that in the city limits of Olympia, 50% of the population is rent burdened by that definition, meaning more than 30% of your income goes toward your housing costs, because we have such a ridiculously hot housing market, and it has priced some people out. And some people say, hey, we're in a capitalist society. If you can't afford $2,000 a month rent, if you just move a couple miles out, you'll have $1,500 a month rent. And other people say, no, that's the definition of gentrification, when people get priced out of where they've lived historically and have to leave because richer people are taking over, and they have to move further and further and further away from wherever their family or urban centers or where they work. And that's one of the big criticisms of the capitalist way of doing things. What's your solution for America? Who do you think is going to win in November?
Oh God. I mean, I don't understand how, I was shocked. I remember I was in Russia, and I woke up in a hotel the day that he won the election, and my buddy,
Trump.
He goes, Trump won. I'm like, I thought he was joking. I had to get on the internet to see, because I thought he was lying to me. But I don't understand how, under this pandemic, under how he's handled it, how, so many people, 50,000 now, 45,000 have died, something like that. I don't know. In the U.S., I don't know how he could win at this point. I mean, Biden. I don't have a lot to good say things about Biden. He's a career politician. He's swung the pendulum on, being against civil rights, for civil rights now. Against unions. Now he's for union. Back and forth. Forget about all this sexual exploits, all that stuff. But just on talking about politics, he's gone back and forth for his career.
When you do something for 50 years, you're pretty much gonna cover the whole gamut.
That's why I like Sanders, man. I remember, I see photos of him from 1967 walking some civil rights march. I see him in 1976 doing some gay rights speech, he hasn't swung, but his own party doesn't want him to be. So
my fear is that just like you said, you woke up on Wednesday after voting Tuesday, and no matter who wins, you're going to have roughly half the population really, really pissed off, and hopefully pissed off, and doggone it, we'll get them next time. My fear is pissed off, and we're mad as hell. We're not going to take it anymore. And
or just as bad. Damn, I'm pissed off. You know what? No matter what we do, it's always the same. So I'm not going to be involved. I'm just going to be apathetic now.
Yeah, it's a good point. Whether resistance and riots is worse, or more apathy. I guess in the grand scheme of things, at least people not getting hurt is better than people getting hurt. If you
well, I want to say one thing about you said, what do we do? So I just kind of said about Biden and Trump, but we have to educate people. I kind of alluded to earlier that people want change. They don't like what's going on, but there's got to be a plan, man. There's got to be. It's not just what we don't want. It's got to be, what do we actually want? It can't just be, we want equality. Well, what does that mean? Put it in black and white terms, write it out. What does that mean? Does that mean when I apply for a job? Does it mean this? Does it mean how would the laws or the regulations or rules be set up to express this? change that you want.
At what level are you talking about, though? In your presidential candidate, or at the street level?
I think that's had to.
People
I mean, you
complaining?
have to start like grassroots. You have to and let the movement grow. But there's one thing. I mean, obviously, it's a tragedy about what happened with George Floyd. But look at all that's come of him. Have come out of this. We have the potential to make actual change, because a lot of people who are just like yeah, like whatever, are like now like all of a sudden angry, all of a sudden like how opinionated, all of a sudden this. But we have to, but we get the bad downside, like you've alluded to, with people vandalizing and looting and stuff like that. But we have the opportunity now, is people are more open now because of all this crisis, to be educated. They have some people are putting their feet in the sand, and like no matter what you tell them, they're not going to change. But the whole definition of intelligence is being able to not remember things, not like be a book or whatever, or like pass a test, but it's be able to assimilate new knowledge into what you have, your schema already, and to use this knowledge and create a new concept and maybe change or alter your opinion a little bit and have new perspective. That is the definition of intelligence. And so we have right now, I don't want to be like, piss on these people, but there's some people that are just not going to be changed, that are just like, Trump could go kill somebody, he could go do whatever he wanted, he'd go run over a 3-year-old, and they're going to support him no matter what. Like, they're just those people. But there's a lot of people who voted for him because they didn't want the same old. Hillary Clinton just represented the same old career politician, the this and that, in with the banks, in with corporations. So they would just want to change. They're angry. But those people who just want to see some change, some difference, that are possibly open to something different, like now, because of this George Floyd thing, are willing to listen a little bit and be educated. And these people we have to reach and try to like say, hey, look, what do we want? We don't want Trump, this is why. We don't really want Biden, and this is why. But what do we want? And if obviously one of them is going to be picked, but what are we going to force and what are we going to demand of this person? Because we don't, we're not going to go with the same old. We're not going to listen to the same old rhetoric. We understand, like, you said this, but you do this. You say this, but you do this. No, this is what we demand. And this is what we want, and we're going to force it. Just like all the social, we talked about earlier, the, civil rights, and this, they had a definite goal. They're like, we want equal rights, we want equal voting rights, we want equal status inside it. We don't want
segregation. Doesn't that, though, I mean, what you're saying sounds good. And we've had in this presidential season, we had everybody from talking about, reparations for slavery to universal health care, a single payer system, a universal basic income. And we had by a lot of American standards, some really crazy shit proposed. We also had, by some American standards, some really hopeful things proposed. And yet, who won out? The cream that floated to the top is the dude that has been in politics for 45, 50 years. If you've had half a century to make change and you haven't done it by now, I don't know if you're gonna. It's sort of like I tell the story sometimes that, I spent my wedding honeymoon at Obama's inauguration. I mean, that's my street cred. As a liberal, as a sort of recovering liberal in some ways, because everything was going to change, everything was going to get better, and I mean, it was nice, but I wouldn't say that everything changed or everything got better. So when we have yet another reenactment of, for a lot of Americans, hold your nose and vote, how do you hold Obama's creed, right? Hope. How do you hold hope for peaceful change, for beneficial change, when you have all of this potential, for new ideas, and the same old tried and true is what floats to the top?
We have to kind of, like we talked about, we have to make what we consider extremism, like single payer, like healthcare, like in U.S. like the especially the pharmaceuticals, the industrial medical complex, they want to make you sound like that's extreme. It's socialism. Well, it's socialism. It's crazy. Every other industrial country in the world has it, except for the United States. But
What's it like in Russia? Because you fight, you get hurt, you got.
Fedor
broke your leg, right?
I've had 3 surgeries in Russia. 3. I've had an emergency surgery to save my life because I was bleeding internally. I had another hernia surgery. I had a hip replacement. All for nothing, for zero. I walked out with 0. I had my baby born there.
Did you have to wait 6 months to get it?
No.
Do you get preferential treatment because you're a rock star there?
The only one I had preferential treatment is the hip, because I did an advertisement for them, and I went to the special clinic in a different city. But the hernia surgery, the emergency surgery to save my life, they were just, I had to wait, do the ultrasounds, to do all this stuff. My baby was born. We didn't get a special room. I'm sitting in a room with, when I had the last surgery, I got lucky because there was a room available. It was the VIP room. That was me and one other person in a little tiny room with one window, no TV, no nothing. I had to go steal a pillow from a hall, like a bed in the hall that was just there, one of the carts. I had to steal it to put between my legs.
Jeff Monson, the Anarchist, stealing pillows from poor people in hospitals.
I didn't get it. It's universal health, and it's cheaper. They've done the studies. It's cheaper. I mean, the Koch brothers, as biased as they would be, they came up saying that single payer system would be cheaper because 30% of the cost of healthcare right now is just billing. Imagine you eliminate 30%, and then imagine being stuck with I had surgery. Oh, you know what? You have a $3,000 copay, or not a copay. You have a $3,000 deductible before they even start paying, and then they covered 80% of it in this. But then now the doctor was outside your
it's one of the greatest causes of bankruptcies in America.
So you take away that, and you tell me the average person everybody. From the moment you're born, unless you're born, you're still going to go to the hospital. You need healthcare. Everybody needs healthcare. So you will pay in. So you're going to have costs. You're going to have.
So what doesn't quite fit for me is you're talking about something that sounds socialist. It sounds communist. It even sounds, in your definition of anarchy, anarchist, meaning equality and no totalitarian structures or so on. But we'll call it that. Communist or socialist. But you've also described Russia, where you live, as being completely capitalist. So a lot of capitalists in America would say, no, having this single payer system, for instance, is completely socialist. We're totally against it. Let people get it with their job. Let people save their money and so on and pay for their insurance. How does Russia have rampant capitalism and still also have socialism?
Because they rightfully, as every other country does, they separate healthcare from, and education is very cheap too. Like secondary education is, maybe, I don't know, for 1 year of school is maybe $1,700 a year for college, like at a state college, which is still money. It's still not free, but it's, you go to Finland or something.
1/10 of what it would be here.
Yeah, Finland, they're paying you 500 euros a month to go to college, to as a stipend, but it's not like that. But it's much cheaper. It's affordable. But healthcare. So what's the idea of capitalism? Capitalism is to make profit. It's to, even at the expense of other people, is to do what you can. Adam Smith, he said, if everybody goes out for themselves, everybody does what's best for themselves, that will drive the market and benefit society as a whole, which is not true, but that's his theory. So that's the capitalist theory, is I'm trying to make as much money as I can. I'm trying to profit as much as I can. So if you have someone who's sick, who needs health care, how is trying to extract as much profit from that person beneficial to that person's health? It's not.
Well, that's one of the common criticisms of for-profit healthcare. But you could also say that or it's also used to criticize. Oh, then healthcare is immediately put in the business of keeping people sick because they make money off of. But that's not a really that's a tautological argument in my eyes, because if you're in the business of helping people lose weight, well, then keeping people fat is going to keep, everybody who's quote unquote in business is in the business of helping solve some kind of problem and providing a service of some sort, and or a product that does something, and keeping that problem going is not part of their business cycle. Typically, it's alleviating a problem. So healthcare, if you alleviate a problem and you make a profit, good on you. But let's say we took healthcare and we put it over in the category. I think what you're saying is kind of like road building. There's some toll roads and stuff, but we all pool our money and we build highways and roads and bridges and so on, because it's not really realistic to put a lot of things in, or sewage systems to make those, pay to play type of things. So we put healthcare into that category of it's just part of the public good, like our bus system, our sewers, our roads. Don't you acknowledge that in capitalist worlds like America, people are inspired to innovate and do things that they would never do with just a government dole to make the iMac, to make a Model T or a Model A Ford, to make like Facebook.
That's such a that is a classic argument.
There you go. So refute it.
Okay, so I'm going to go into history first of all, and then I'll refute the argument. So the Black Plague in Europe killed 1/3 the population. So there was then a capitalist market at that point. The Black Plague, rent was expensive, housing was expensive, like job pay was low because there were so many workers and like cramped in cities and stuff. Well, 1/3 of the people died. It was the Black Plague. What happened right after the Black Plague? The Renaissance. Why? Because people instead of going begging for jobs, is like people were there was not enough workers, and so they were able to choose their jobs. They were able to have smaller work schedules, have more time off. They were able to pay less for rent or less for mortgage, they had more time to themselves. And what did they do with this time? Oh, people started to paint, people started to read, people started to innovate, have expand on science and astronomy and stuff like this. So what innovates people? People are human beings, have unlimited potential. We go to the stars, go to do this, but you can't if you're at home going to work 10 hours a day, coming home, paying bills. You're an average worker. You have to work 8-10 hours a day. You get 2 weeks off during the year for a vacation. You're constantly worried about your bills. You're worried about your car being taken away from you, or this, or the car broke down. You got to pay for kids' college. It's constant, and we're distracted by the UFC or, American Idol or something like that.
Just the opiates of the people.
Yeah, to keep us from rebelling. But the point is if I won the world championship, okay, man, am I the best? If you took every possible person, all these kids from Africa, all these people from Asia, all the poor kids from the U.S., and gave them the same opportunity as me to be in a gym, to work out, to be a fighter, to be a jiu-jitsu artist or whatever like that, would I win? No, because you would increase the 100 times by 100 times the people who are still interested in this. How can you be a great teacher, a scientist, an anthropologist, really something who makes a difference, some great civil rights, if you're just trying to make it by? The UN says 54% of the population on our planet lives on less than the equivalent of $2 a day. That's more than half. So those people, for the most part, and 1 in a billion, will never have the opportunity to do anything special. They'll never be able to travel. They're this great inventor, right? But the potential's there. They're being lost. That's not people starving to death. People like going hungry. This is terrible, but just as terrible is the talent and the minds and the opportunity and the what society, what the human race lost by this people just trying to survive, just trying to beg on the street for food, just trying to like.
So you're kind of preaching the slogan of the United Negro College Fund, which is a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah, but
that we're letting
this talent, like, and so even the people in the U.S., like who are maybe lower middle class or middle class, who are working day in day out just to pay off a loan, pay off a medical bill. Oh, their car broke down. Now they gotta like find $400 to pay this so they can get to work. Like, tell me these people are gonna have the time to go to innovate, to create, to expand, to make something beautiful, to go fight, to be a trainer, a fighter, an artist, something. Man, they don't have the time to do it.
Well, but I have to stop you and say that what you're describing, that dreariness of just trying to survive, that to me sounds like my stereotype of life in Russian factory work where you can't get ahead, or life in a Foxconn iPhone factory in communist China where people, live, work, and die in these factories, granted, to get us cheap iPhones.
I agree 100%.
It sounds like the people
this isn't the United States, but that's the thing. Like, this isn't a U.S. problem. This is a world problem. But you also just alluded to these people in China or these people in Indonesia or wherever that are working in sweatshops or working on these long hours. Yeah, they're making us iPhones. They're making us like Nikes. They're making us, the people in the United States, so we can have these goods. But still, the people in the United States are not creating. I mean, we have this, I forgot what the program's called, but for doctorate students in the United States, the programs, but more than 50%, I think 51 or 52% of the doctorate students in the United States in all fields are not from the United States, because our education system is so poor that we can't fill up the slots with United States citizens. These people are from different countries, from India, from wherever they are, that fill in like more than half the slots for these PhD candidates that are going to school. And these are going to be the movers and shakers. These are going to be people that are doing stuff in the world. They have a doctorate degree, they're in the research or science or whatever they're in. But our education system, we're just going through life, working, and in Russia too. Yeah, I mean, the people in fact, what are these people doing making $300 a month? What are they ever going to do, succeed, achieve, even fulfill? Like, I call it like self-actualization, kind of a psych term that we have, like
Sure.
Self-actualization, like what they could be, what they would strive to be if they had every opportunity, if they had every dream come true, what they could be. Not winning the lottery, no, like an actual thing that they earn, that they feel good about themselves. What would they do?
Don't you think, though, that their ability to get the people who worked at that factory in Russia who make $300 a month and make crackers and bread as their all-day 45-hour-a-week job, if you're doing that in America, you can go get another job. You can work your way up to own that factory someday, or you could stay right on the assembly line. In Russia, well, I'm not going to say in Russia because you're calling it now a capitalist society, but in a socialist or communist society, you could not all of those people have that option.
But you wouldn't be doing that. You wouldn't be working those many hours. You would have, look, how many jobs do we have? I was reading this article. It was really interesting about how many jobs that we have that don't help society at all. A banker, like with a stockbroker.
Wait, what's wrong with bankers?
We'll get into that in a second. But like jobs that don't create, don't produce anything, don't help society in any way. Lawyers, like stuff like that. There's a lot of jobs that don't do anything for society. If you could eliminate these jobs and put people in jobs that actually like create for something, you wouldn't have to work 40, 50 hours a week. You know what I mean? You could work much, much, much less. And if you are guaranteed to have a roof over your head, transportation, healthcare, education, the food, like the basics, without worrying about your car being repossessed, about losing your house if you didn't work extra hours, you could use this time, to create. You wouldn't be so dumbed down. Maybe some people would come home and watch American Idol or some other thing, but you would have more time. You wouldn't be coming home exhausted. You'd have time to do things.
So I think you're making the old argument that is often made about labor-saving devices and technology, but also if you have fewer jobs that need fewer workers, our populace has more free time and more recreation time and more time to enjoy quality of life. That's not what we're seeing in capitalist societies.
Well,
we
also,
have fewer and fewer people able to get
what
jobs.
What is capitalist society? We're producing for profit. We're not producing for need. We're producing for profit. We're making, 5 million G.I. Joe toys when we only need this many, because hopefully we can sell these other, or they'll become, blah, blah, blah. If we produce what we need and not what is for profit. How many empty houses are in the U.S.? What do they say? For every one homeless person, there's 5 or 10 empty houses or apartments in the U.S. It's some crazy number. Like I had to read it twice to believe it.
Yeah, but that stat always implies that we should just take that house away from you and give it to some guy.
No, I don't agree with that. But the point, I see it more as we're producing stuff to make money instead of what people need.
So it's a systemic problem.
It's a systemic problem. But let's look. Since we're talking about capitalism, just I want to make one point that there's no refuting. There's no arguing about with capitalism. Capitalism is about expanding, making profit, reducing costs, like for capitalizing, like making capital for yourself. So the world cannot contain this. Capitalism is literally a mathematical model. If you put it, it's a mathematical, hard science model, but it doesn't take into account people's health. It doesn't take into account people's motivations, people's spirituality, people's hurt, desires, and it doesn't keep into account the environment. It doesn't. This world is finite. We have finite amount of water, finite amount of lumber, finite amount of clean air, everything else. Capitalism is about expanding, producing, making, making capital. It doesn't take into account that these resources run out. It's a mathematical model. The earth cannot contain the continuation of capitalism, and we're seeing this now. Every year there's more desert, more deforestation. The oceans become more acidic. We're talking about the global warming problem now. Every year water becomes more expensive. Now we're buying a bottled water, a little 16-ounce bottle of water for $2. It's crazy. Well, water, that should be for everybody on Earth.
It'll probably be air in about 10 years.
Yeah.
You buy a bottle of air. But I think you're identifying that some people would say the global economy is predicated on continuous growth. And if you don't have continuous growth, you have recession, you have depression, and I don't know that that's any different under socialist or communist models, is it?
It is, because it's about producing what people need, not about making profit. So we produce way more things than we need now. Maybe there's how many millions of cars and trucks are sitting right across the street in the parking lots there, waiting to be sold. Going to be sit there for it's about profit. How many billionaires we have in the United States, or millionaires we have in the United States? They just have 3 houses and luxury this and luxury. We can't keep producing things. There's not enough to go around. There's just not enough fresh air, fresh water.
So if you had, I kind of joke, but the level of socialism that I would tolerate might be like Costco.
Yeah.
They don't have the best crap, but they've got pretty good crap. They've got a few of the best crap, and there's usually only you want a snowshoe. Well, there's one kind of snowshoe, and it's not very good, but it's not Walmart crap either. It's not what I would get, top level outdoor research or whatever, some other top level stuff. There's limited quantity or limited selection. Is that how life is in Russia right now? Is that how life is under Jeff Monson's socialist world?
No, I mean socialism doesn't, like I said, like real true socialism where the workers have the means of production, and communism, of course, where there's no the state is eradicated. There's no classes. There's never been done. So if you under true socialism, true communism, there isn't a limit on it. You can make the best snowshoes. You could make the best car. It doesn't have to be the same plain, old Soviet style crap cars that I still see in Russia sometimes, that like spewing out like smoke and stink and like terrible for the environment and breaking down, and they're laughing stocks. You can make a good car, you can make a good thing, but it's for necessity, for transportation.
But hasn't that quality improved in Russia specifically because of the capitalist revolution there?
I mean, people, yeah. But I'm saying it also can improve. It's not because of capitalism. Capitalism was a reason, yeah. Like if I made a better car than you, then maybe
that's
people
it.
would buy
The
my car.
argument is always competition breeds better. Competition, MMA fighters from 25 years ago, when there wasn't as much competition, those guys could not compete today because the level of competition and the pool of talent and so on. But competition breeds improvement, yeah?
Competition breeds improvement, but so does time and opportunity. So where right now you have competition, you have a limited number of people or factories or companies able to make this research or make a better car. In a social society, you have more people, more ideas that aren't working so many hours, that have more opportunity with their free time to, I'm working on the assembly line, making this much. I want to, I have an idea, and I'm only working like 5 hours a day. If I have a lot of free time, and I'm doing this boring job day after day. I have an idea. I'm not going to make any more money, but I'm going to be up there instead of work on the assembly line I'm kind of bored of now. I'm going to be drawing like thing or doing some math equations, whatever, showing how we can improve the quality or put this extra step in here that's going to improve this, and this. I'd rather do that. So I'm going to go talk to this guy and show this my new idea. And now I'm working here and doing it because I have the opportunity, the time. It's not a few people with a few heads trying to fearlessly try to create profit and compete with each other. It's a massive pool that, there's no I'm not having to compete with that person, but I have the free time to do it. And because I'm a human being, because I have interest, because I'm a human being that's creative and expressive and interested in the world, I'm going to go try to do this, or I'm interested in this, or I'm tired of this. I'm doing this assembly line thing every day for 4 or 5 hours, but on my free time, which I have a lot of now, I'm going to go do jiu-jitsu. I'm going to teach jiu-jitsu for kids down the street. And my thing, because some kids were showing interest and I saw it on TV and I'm really interested in it. So I'm going to go do that. I learned it. So I'm going to go show the kids what I know. And all of a sudden we got a little club going and I got time to do it. And I'm not having to worry about, oh shit, I bet I got to go get some sleep because I got to be up at 6 a.m. and I got a 10-hour shift tomorrow. No, I'm not so stressed about it.
In America, that rather than that being imposed upon us or being systematized, there is a small movement like that of minimalism, of voluntary simplicity, of people who say, I don't want to work a factory job for 40 years. I don't want a gold watch after the end of that. I don't want to work 10 hours a day. I want to work 5 hours a day. And some people call them hipsters. Some people call them slackers. Some people call them millennials. But they want more out of life than just the American dream, or they maybe even see the American dream as being unattainable now. But they don't buy as much crap at Walmart or Costco, and they don't necessarily buy their own $400,000 home. And we leave it up to individuals to decide whether they're going to be pack rats that order stuff constantly off of Amazon, or whether they are more like what you're talking about, somebody who lives a simple life so they've got time and freedom to pursue maybe a more Renaissance-like life. is that the freedom of choosing between those two options or those two ends of the spectrum? Is that not good enough?
So I'll answer this way. What is the most, for every person on earth, every single person, I can tell you exactly, I know the most valuable thing for every single person on this earth, because it's the same thing.
Time.
It's the most important thing you have, because you say, no, my kids are most important. Well, time with your kids, right? You want to be time. It's time to go do what you want, time to reflect, time to sleep, time to love, time. Everybody on their deathbed, what's the one thing they wish they had more of? Time. So in a social society, it gives you the one thing that you want more than anything else in society. It gives you more of time. And with this time, it doesn't make you do this. It doesn't make you more creative. It just gives you the opportunity. Time equals the opportunity to do those things, to be more creative. Or maybe you just want to sleep all day. You work 5 hours, maybe you want to go home. I just love to sleep. And that's fine, because that's your goal. But as long as you put in your whatever scheduled time, you have that opportunity to do. But there's a lot of people as people that are going to go use this opportunity, this extra time, not only to like have a more fulfilling life with their family, with their kids, spend more time, and therefore like their kids, instead of growing up with one parent at work all the time, the other parent here, and growing up like being a latchkey kid and growing up on TV and this, and maybe getting a little trouble or not having the like thing, and then all of a sudden they're in jail. Like it's all this is the butterfly effect of capitalism to me. A murder, if somebody gets murdered, you can, if you want to trace that, if you want to look into some scope and rewind that person's life down to childhood, I can guarantee you at some point in there you will see where capitalism caused the
so you're outside of my wheelhouse now, but I'm going to just ask you, if you know, does that mean that crime is substantially lower in socialist or communist countries?
I mean,
under your paradigm you're describing,
yeah, under a paradigm, yeah, it would have to be. Because,
but is it, or are we back to the discussion? Well, it's never really been implemented anywhere on Earth in human history.
I mean, I think you have a little bit of both, but let's just use common. If you take away the stress, the need to acquire, and if you have all your basics accounted for in life, you have education, and you have secondary education if you desire for it. You have medical care that you have transportation, you have a place to live, you have food, and you have these necessities for your family. And so does everybody else. Are you going to go steal? Are you going to go steal from your neighbor? Are you going to go rob a bank? Are you going to go kill for the thing? The likelihood is much less. If you have more time with your family, are the chances of your kid becoming a delinquent, getting in with the wrong crowd, maybe like doing something bad, are they less? Oh, absolutely.
I would think that it would also be a risk, though, that you would want riches and wealth and luxury that you see available somewhere to an elite, whether that's in America or whether that's the elite in your own country, and it could inspire yearning for those things. So
desire, yeah. Then what does this yearning like happen? Like there's this American dream. You see a lot. The
criticism, though, is that requires that the whole globe, that we wipe out capitalism from the entire planet, because if luxury and extreme wealth exists anywhere, it creates envy in the populace, and the people get out of line, and the whole thing falls apart. So we have to exterminate.
No, I think it goes back. Kind of like what you're seeing in Russia right now. They have this fascination with the United States. Like they want to come, they want to visit. There's many people want to live here. But now when they're seeing kind of what's going on with this coronavirus, or the response, they're seeing like Trump's up and down stuff. They're seeing the Biden thing and all the the accusations of sexual misconduct by both of them and this and that. They think it's a clown show, and they don't want that. Yeah, they still want to visit the United States, but they don't want that kind of leadership. They don't want that kind of like government. To them, it's embarrassing. They're like, I've had people ask me like, "Do you still have American citizenship? I know you're Russian citizen. Do you have American citizenship?" I go, "Yeah." And I go, "Are you embarrassed?" Like I've had like 3 people ask me, "Are you embarrassed?" Because they're like, because of what the leaders are up to. So I think it's, yeah, if you see some, people with riches, people like with this, but if you see like with the side, you see like a high rate of depression. You see a lot of people living in poverty. Yeah, you see some rich people, but then you see people that don't have health care, and you see people who don't have, and you call your friends. It's international now. You can Facebook or have friends from the United States, and you're like, "Oh, how you doing? Oh man, I lost my job. I lost my health care. Like I have this thing I can't pay for. I don't know what I'm gonna do." Like, really? They don't pay for that?
So how come then with Glasnost and Mikhail Gorbachev and the fall of the Berlin Wall, Russians sort of like swarmed into capitalism, and I think it was the fastest growing era of billionaires or millionaires at the time, I'm not sure which, in Russia, because people swarmed into capitalism? Was it because of the oppressiveness of communism, or was it because of a corrupt implementation of communism on the part of the Soviet Union?
People, and I can say from like a million conversations with Russians who lived under both communism and capitalism, lived under USSR and now Russia, people miss the social aspect of the USSR. They miss the housing, guaranteed housing. They miss the guaranteed work. They miss the, like things that were like, that, wasn't like 10 people living in the same house. This, at the same point, they like the opportunity, to have a car or to have something else like better than what they had before. But it's under what happened in Russia when it's like, to quote Vladimir Putin, it's the biggest tragedy, like what do you say? This geopolitical tragedy in the world, in the history of the world, was the fall of the USSR. And what happened is, after all, these people, there was a grab. The rich, the oligarchs, basically were given this stuff by the leaders in Russia, given the access to the
a lot of
oil,
nepotism,
a lot of nepotism,
bribes,
and now you still see this today. Like some of these oligarchs have kept this that they've had and just passed it on to their children and their children, and it was a grab. I want to call it a land grab because it was more than just land. It was a resource grab, and the people are still suffering today. And you had what happened. You see. People in the United States or in the media saying, "Oh yeah," then people are able to buy like jeans and they had stuff and they embrace capitalism. This, you had the greatest inequality gap, the greatest inequality crap in the history of not only Russia but the world, when the USSR craps, and all of a sudden you had millionaires, billionaires, and everybody else lost out because all of a sudden they didn't have jobs, they didn't have guaranteed like housing, they didn't have this. Now they had to pay rent where they didn't have to pay rent before. Then they didn't have guaranteed food. You had people literally on the edge of starvation, as well as a bunch of billionaires being created. It was like a massive, massive gap that Russia's been trying to recover from the last 30 some years, and it was not a good time back then. And it's just like slowly over time getting better. The gap is closing a little bit. There was like no middle class before, and now there's a very small middle class in Russia, but it's getting bigger. But it's still very difficult economically, and it was a result of a grab and, like you said, a nepotism and some people having a lot and the masses having nothing.
Interesting. Well, I want to wrap up by talking about what you're actually. I called you America's most famous anarchist or communist, not because you've written all these great political essays, but because in American pop culture, you're probably the best known dude in those worlds because of your celebrity as a champion fighter. So I want to just wrap up talking about fighting and MMA and what you're best known for. First off, what being defecting to Russia and being a communist, being supportive of anarchy in your definition of it, how does that play with the fight world, with other fighters, with promoters, with getting fights, with fans? Where does that land?
Well, it's never hurt me getting fights. Fight promoters want, whether they think it's a big thing or not a big thing, they don't care. It's like, okay, if people are interested in him or don't like him because he's this or don't care, it's fine, because it's either going to not affect me, or maybe some more people are going to watch him because they want to see him lose, or maybe they want to see him win because of his political views. It's hurt me a lot in sponsorship, a lot. Like as far as getting, I had a good sponsor for several years back, a nutrition sponsor, and the company they were about to renew it, and the head of the company didn't really, just saw my pictures and stuff and had, it's like, I want to get to know my clientele better, because he's a businessman. He goes, he just Googled me, and it's like, drop this guy today. Like, yeah, it was like, and so I lost like a good sponsorship. It's definitely cost sponsorships in this, but
I would expect that, and what I know, having been to fights with you and stuff, that other fighters, who you are as a person, and just knowing you and liking you trumps any political disagreement.
I don't have any. I've never had any political other guys on my own team, like American Top Team, because we've had like some really right. We have like we had who was on like Colby Covington, the ultra right wing. He was, you remember, my team before, and then, but you know what? It never affected our friendship. It never. We joke about it. I call him like you freaking Trump loving, Bob. He's like, you goddamn communist, like scum, but we can do it, and it's fun. That's why we have a good team.
Well, and I put up on our show page that, I don't know if you posted it, but somehow somebody brought it to me, an old fight with you and Navy SEAL Jocko Willink, from like 95 or 2005. And I couldn't imagine two guys fighting who are more politically opposite. Is there something about fighting, though, that I mean, knowing what it's like to prepare, knowing what it's like to sacrifice, that you share camaraderie in that more than what you share as conflict or opposition politically?
Yeah. There's that, one of the kind of most cool moments I had. I went to Poland and did this a few years back, and did the world jiu-jitsu grappling championships, and there were people. It was in Krakow, and there were people from United States, Brazil, Russia, this and that, and I was actually representing USA at this time, and for every and so I made it to the finals, and like every country, man, they were like such support for each other, like whether you were from, I think the guy I fought was from Spain in the finals, and man, there was like people cheering us both on, and afterwards we did a little kind of seminar of like, oh, how'd you do this, and we showed like you just supported each other, man. It was fantastic. And afterwards, the next day, like a bunch of us, like from different countries, like some of us we couldn't even communicate language wise, we went to Auschwitz. Like it was that was another kind of emotional thing, like together as a group, like, because you know what I mean, and it's people who never met each other other than one day before, like support each other during this competition, wanting the best, and then go and experience like one of the most emotional experiences someone could possibly do, and go into this camp. And it was like one of the coolest moments I've ever had in sport. It was pretty cool.
I think that's one of the unfortunate things for people who kind of blow sports off as being combative or toxic masculinity or jingoistic nationalistic pride kind of stuff that completely overlooks and grossly oversimplifies the bridges that can be built beyond language, beyond politics, beyond race or ethnicity or religion, is that people that share a common bond for a sport that takes a lot of dedication and sacrifice, that's an incredibly bonding thing to share something like that with other people.
Yeah.
You know, who
it's a great. They say sport overrides politics, and in the case of competition, it really does. It's fantastic. It's you got to experience it to understand it, but it's you feel human, and you feel like you're part of the human race when you do it.
What about here in the U.S.? I mean, when you're back, you come back, you said several times a year. I haven't seen you for a while. Do people know, I mean, man on the street, are they, oh, that's Jeff Monson the fighter, or that's Jeff Monson the communist, or that's Jeff Monson the communist fighter? I love him as the fighter, and I don't really care that he's a communist.
Well, in the U.S., like quite honestly, like in Olympia, Lacey, people will know me from being in the area, but like in Florida, some of the things, but like in the U.S. in general, people only know me like the old school guys, like who watched the UFC back in the day or fighting back in the day, or like a jiu-jitsu guy. If he does jiu-jitsu, you'll probably know me, but the general people don't know me at all. And like this was the same in Russia at the beginning. Like people like, oh, you fought Fedor, I saw you on TV, you're a fighter. And so people who watched fighting, were interested in fighting, like knew who I was. But then I did a couple more fights, and I did some seminars, and then I was on the Ugin show, which is like our late night, like
okay,
like their equipment. They only have one late night, so like instead of competing, like everybody watches. So I was on this show, and I remember the next morning, when I was in a hotel, I was getting up, all the maid who were doing the beds and all the stuff, cleaning the hotel, like, were, oh my gosh, it's like, we saw you on the show last night. So the day before, they had no idea who I was.
So you're telling me if America became communist, I wouldn't get to choose between Jimmy Fallon or somebody else?
Well, it's not communist. It's such a good show that I don't know. Like, yeah, they don't need a competition. But like in Russia now, and just because of the things I've said about Russia, I was on Dancing with Stars in Russia. I've been on like many of their like America's Got Talent. I had Russia's Got Talent. So I've been on, like, not as a judge, and because I don't have any other talents, but
wait, on Dancing with the Stars Russia version, were you a judge or were you a dancer?
I was a dancer.
Seriously?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna
get
that.
You didn't see that? That's awesome.
I'm gonna.
The best experience of my life. The best 3 months for me personally, without involving my kids and my love for my kids and stuff like that, but just for me as a selfish, like what made me feel good, the best 3 months of my life by far
was on the Russia Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, like compete, like training, meeting the other things, having a like, beautiful, fantastic dance partner, like it's like the best 3 months, maybe 3.5 months of my life. Like just, wow. It was fantastic. The people were amazing. It was like even like the makeup people, like the show producers, the other dancers, the judges, everybody it was like wow, community. Like you talk about like the people rooting on each other in sport. It was like that. Everybody helping each other. Everybody wanting them to do bad or good, better and better and better. And it was like fantastic.
Interesting. And what is your relationship? I was looking at your Facebook today, and there's a picture of you kind of looking like you're in a standoff with cops. And I remember at the time when that photo went big, people thought it was at the support protest in Olympia back when they were putting the military equipment that you talked about earlier. And it actually was, I think, you doing a workshop or something back east. But the photo looks, and it reminds me of a story I heard from my ex is a law enforcement, and I heard through the grapevine that when you were down at the port protest here in Olympia, that you had kind of an interesting relationship with law enforcement. That some of them were kind of afraid that this guy's, we're just going to tase you preemptively. Yeah. Was that, and the other was that a lot of guys liked, a lot of guys in law enforcement like defensive tactics. Yeah. They like jujitsu. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's right. Like probably a week before I spray painted the Capitol, and we were like protesting because they were driving through, and we like made a human chain, just holding each other's hand, like women, men, me, and I was like in this human chain. And so they just went, the cops and the police came and they took off. They started arresting, reading like saying, if you don't move, that we're going to arrest you. And then going like just taking off each end, going boom, boom, boom. Like there were probably 15 of us. And then
So that
14.
sounds pretty respectful and civil.
Yeah, there's no, nobody fought. And so then it got down to me and this one guy, the last two, standing in the middle of the road holding hands. And so the police guy came up and go, hey, look, we know who you are, and we don't have to, and there's a lot at this point, there's a crowd like looking on, like filming and all this stuff. And they go, we don't want to fight, so we're just, we don't want blah, blah. And he goes, actually, some of these guys here go to your school. Like, they don't, and we actually asked them to back out because they're not, we don't want like,
being torn between
interest.
Yeah, right.
So they're not going to be part of this, but some other guys are gonna they're gonna tackle you. I go, I'm not going to fight, but I'm not going to let you take me either. I'm not going to punch anybody. I'm not going to break anybody's leg. I'm not going to choke anybody, but I'm not going to let you take me. And so he goes and talks to someone, comes back, goes, okay, we're just going to tase you. And then whatever. So then and I go, okay, I'm holding hands with this guy. And if you tase me, it's going to be on, it's on media because everybody's filming this. And it's going to show you coming up to a guy without trying to arrest him, tasing him, me falling down, and then you arresting me, and like it's not going to look good. So he goes back, talks to the guy, and then they end up driving around to they just went a different way. They just avoided the whole thing. So, but it was
Nonviolent civil disobedience.
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go.
Right.
So my last thing I want to say is, people ask, about the culture in Russia, and like why I love Russia and this, and like, and I love. I love people in the United States. Obviously I don't love our government at this point. I'm not in love with the Russia government either. But there, I have my friends here, my family's here. I have people I care. My team is in America. If you have a child, which you have a child, you want what's best for your child, right? So you're not going to let your child. Oh, my child, you want candy? Here, I'm going to give you candy. Oh, you want more candy? I'm going to give you more candy. Oh, you don't want to brush your teeth tonight? I'm not going to make you brush your teeth. Oh, you want this? I'm going to give, because that's not good for your child. That it. You have to discipline. Oh, you did something bad? I'm going to have to discipline you. So you want what's best for your child because you care for your child. You love your child. So it's the same thing I say about America. If you let your child go invade Iraq, invade Afghanistan, like America, patriots, we stand by our forces, we do this. It's wrong. You feel ethically it's wrong to go kill people in different countries for oil. You feel like going and like not protecting yourself from this virus or whatever, not doing it and letting people die, and the government's not doing what it can. You want to say no, this is not okay. This is not. I demand, because I care about you as a country, not where my family lives, where I live, where I grew up. I care about this country enough that I want to make it better. I don't want it to be like a patriot doesn't stand by and let his country do whatever it can, whatever it wants, and treat its citizens and other citizens however it chooses without consequence, and just keeping your mouth shut and saying, hey, no, that's wrong. Like, if you care about your country, you're going to stand up and say, hey, I support this, but I don't support this, and this is why I don't support it, and this is why it's wrong, and I want to make a change. I'm not just going to go destroy and break and tip over cars. I'm going to say, no, let's make a change. Let's get together. Let's get a group together. Let's get more and more masses together and make it not okay. All of a sudden, not okay to do these kind of things, because enough people are agreeing that, or understand, or being educated that, hey, our country's doing something bad or not, or hurting people. So let's make a change. Let's make this change that we can do, because we care about our country. Not, if you care about something, you don't let it do what it's want. You don't let your kid do what it's want. Same thing with your country. You want to make a change. You want to make it better. So that's how I respond to people who are like, oh, you're saying this, you're doing this. It's because I care. I want to make a change. And there's a lot of people who care so much that they're willing to go to jail. They're willing to like hold hands and get tasered and get pepper sprayed and stand and march and still like care for the police and still care for the people who are oppressing them and still want to make a change. There's so many people out there like that, and I don't want to lose sight of the fact there's so many good people in America and in different countries that want to make a positive change. So we need to focus on that too. But we got to work together, and we got to make changes together because we care about each other, because we care about this country.
All right, Jeff. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Dave.